On this episode of the Bangkok podcast, we interview someone who educates your hosts on a topic we know absolutely nothing about: Thailand's gun culture.
And that topic you've been wanting us to chime in on, the street food ban. But our response may surprise you.
Here's episode 2.29 of the Bangkok podcast. Hello and welcome to the Bangkok podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian expat who came to Thailand on a vacation in 2001 and never left.
And I am Evo Terra, an American expat living full-time in Bangkok since the beginning of 2016. Thanks for joining us, and welcome to the Big Mango.
So you're coming to me, to us, to the listening audience, direct from your home country, the United States of America?
I am indeed. I have been repatriated only for a short time. Relax, people. I'm coming back in early May, but repatriated for the moment in the great state of Alabama, deep in the South.
Alabama. You know, recording over online is really cool. I mean, you sound exactly like you do every week when you're 500 meters down the street.
Yeah, because neither one of us like each other enough to see each other in person very often. So this is how we do it.
Who wants to do that when you can do everything virtually?
Right. You have to walk outside in the sweltering heat? No. We'll stay inside of our 25-degree condos. Thank you very much.
So there's one topic that we would be loath not to talk about this week, and it has been burning up the charts, so to speak. And speaking of the 500 meters between your building and mine, there's usually a fair amount of food to choose from.
Right.
But if the people in charge have their way, there might not be. So if you haven't heard, and if you have anything to do or any interest in Thailand, even remotely, you've probably heard the news. But there has been a great deal of talk in the past week about banning food in Thailand, street food in Thailand specifically. And that's what all the headlines are saying. But it's not as cut and dry as one would expect or one might hope.
The food apocalypse may or may not be approaching on our doorsteps. Yeah, huge news all over. Thanks, everyone on Twitter for reaching out and Facebook and sending us messages saying, are you going to talk about this? Short answer is yes. Yes, we are, but not today. And the reason we're not doing today, Greg, why aren't we talking about it right now on this show?
Well, the simple reason is that we really don't know what's going to happen. As with a lot of these wide-reaching, vast-in-scope decisions by the government, it was announced, and then people freaked out, and then the government was like, well, yeah, maybe not totally banned, maybe banned sometimes, maybe banned some places, I don't know. And, I mean, this is just recently after CNN named Bangkok the best street food city in the world. And right. Bangkok is internationally known for its street food. It's part of the culture. It's part of the vibe of the city. And when you come out and say something like you're going to get rid of it all, obviously you're going to have some pushback.
Yeah. And so rather than the two of us adding to the din and noise of speculation, we're opting to wait a week or two until the government, that's either the BMA, the Bangkok Metropolitan Authority, or the Council for Peace and Order, when they get their stuff together and figure out what this really means, then we will offer up our considered opinions for you, but not today.
Right. It's like a lot of things in Thailand. It happens. These big sort of top-down, countrywide or citywide or province-wide regulations are announced, and then people freak out, and then it takes months and months of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until whatever happens. It usually doesn't even closely resemble the original dictate. So we'll have to see what happens.
That's why we are opting for a completely safe topic on today's show: guns.
Yeah, we're going to go from food to guns, two essentials in life. The ironic thing is that you're talking to us from the United States of Hysteria,
right?
Where guns are almost essential.
I think there are 6 underneath the bed I'm sleeping in right now. So I'm very familiar with guns. I grew up with them all around. I grew up in Oklahoma, which means as soon as you come out of the womb, a 9mm is pressed into your hand. I'm kidding. It's not that bad. But we are very much a big hunting state and very much a big guns right state. And I actually own firearms, which I know is going to make people go, "What? You crazy person." But I don't have any in Thailand.
Right. And I had a similar life growing up on the prairie in Canada as a farm boy. I went out and shot gophers and went hunting and things like this. So I have experience with guns too, although the Canadian gun culture is not not as vast or as culturally identifiable as the American one.
Right.
But you and I were talking a little bit, and we just sort of stumbled on this topic, and we realized that neither you nor I know absolutely anything about gun culture in Thailand. They exist here. There is a lot of gun crime, and the statistics that are available online are shaky and hard to pin down at best. So we figured it would be interesting to talk about, because I know nothing about it. I can't speak for you, but I think you're probably in the same boat as I am.
Yeah. So we don't want to shoot off our mouths the wrong way and possibly get fired for saying terrible things. So let's bring an expert on, shall we?
All right, we're back with our guest this week. Now, since Evo and I know literally nothing about gun culture in Thailand, we thought we'd have a friend of mine on. So, Mr. Kun A, welcome to the Bangkok podcast.
Thanks, Greg.
So now I've known you for a little while, and you are a gun aficionado. You seem to be very experienced with a lot of different types of handguns.
Yes.
I don't know if you're a rifle shooter or a machine gun guy, but I've seen a lot of pictures of you on shooting ranges and doing some pretty cool stuff with some pretty badass looking firearms.
Yep.
So can you tell me a little bit about you and your shooting, and is it a hobby of yours, or is it something that you really got into when you were younger or recently?
Well, I started shooting back when I was like 5 or 6. I mean, I was exposed to it in the first place by my uncle, who's a police officer. Okay. So he's the person that introduced me to guns, shooting, and I never really got into it until early 30s when I actually had some money, because guns in Thailand, to start off with, it's really expensive. Like a Glock 19 or your average Glock in the States, it costs like $500-600.
Right.
Whereas in Thailand, it's like $2,500.
Whoa, really? That much expensive? Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So it's because of import licenses and quotas and taxes, all that jazz. So handguns in Thailand, they're really expensive. So I really got into guns in my early 30s. My first gun was a Glock 19, and I started competing with it. I am a IDPA shooter. And
what's IDPA?
So IDPA stands for International Defensive Pistol Association, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So yeah, last year I shot in like 5 matches and yeah, so it's fun. It's a sport for me. It's a sport, and also I have guns for self-defense, home defense as well. And besides handguns, I have like 4 handguns. I have 1 rifle and 1 shotgun as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. In the introduction, Evo, my co-host, and I were talking a little bit about how we grew up, and he's American, and I'm Canadian, and I don't think we need to say much about America's gun culture. I think we all know what's going on there. But we both had experience to guns and exposure to guns growing up. I grew up on a farm, so I had to shoot, coyotes and gophers and things like that. But I, of course, have never been really exposed to it to the level that most Americans have, where it's sort of written into the law of the land. But what does the average Thai person think about guns? Is it a part of Thai culture, or is it considered sort of a foreign import?
That's a good question. Like, it is sort of ingrained into Thai culture, but it's not. It's definitely not as open and as in or distinct as in the States. But it's definitely not mainstream at where we used to, or where I used to work, where we knew each other. I think I was the only gun owner that people knew that he owns guns, or he is an active gun enthusiest.
I've got to say, you're the only person I know in Thailand who owns guns, or at least who I know who owns guns.
Yeah. So it's definitely not mainstream, but there is a lot of interest. There are hardcore enthusiasts out there, and coming back to your question, like, is it part of the culture? I'd say in a way, yes, but it's in a bad way though, because ever since the 60s or even the 70s, the way that people or businessmen or politicians dealt with their opposition was hiring hitmen.
Yeah,
and through,
yeah.
And
Yeah.
through, I'm sure you may have heard of this. I mean, if it's still even apparent today, where you'll hear on the news that, oh yeah, this businessman, was shot. The suspect, or was by hitman who was hired by his business associate that they had a falling out of, that kind of stuff.
Right, right. And I think for a lot of the past, 5, 6, 7 decades, Southeast Asia was a little bit of the wild, wild west. Some countries more so than
Yes.
others. But in doing
Right.
some research for this conversation we're having, one of the things that kept coming up was that most gun violence is perpetrated because of loss of face or a business deal gone bad.
Yes.
And I don't think it's surprising to tell people that hiring a hitman in Thailand or Southeast Asia, and probably many countries in Southeast Asia, is not that difficult. Like where I'm from, that's something that only happens in the movies. Like who does that? But it's common here, and
Yeah.
gun violence
Right.
is probably also very more common than I think a lot of people think.
Like as Thais, or I think in my certain circles, like we know that, okay, like if you go to Chonburi, which is where Pattaya is located, Chonburi, they have hitmen there, or Uthai Thani, they have hitmen there. If you want to find a hitman, that's basically where you go to. I mean, that, again,
Oh, really?
that's where you go to. That's where they hang out, or so to
Okay.
speak. Yeah.
Well, every country has mafia and guys who will do bad things for money, right? But it seems that, it's funny that you say, oh, Thais just know that. I mean, if you talk to me about my home city, I'd have no clue where
Right,
they
right.
hang out. Maybe we'd have to go to America. I don't know.
Right.
So let's back up a bit. Imagine you, Kun A, has no training and no guns and wants to start. What do you need to do to start to be an active shooter as a hobbyist in Thailand?
Speaking as a Thai, okay, you would definitely need an employment certificate, basically a letter from your place of work saying that you work there, earn X amount, your bank statement or bank book, at least 6 months, house registration, and your ID card. Now, if you're an expat, one additional document that you would need is a permanent resident, or a copy of your permanent residence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you wouldn't be able to legally buy a gun as a foreigner unless you were a permanent resident.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you need to show any proof of training or passing a course of some kind?
No, not at all.
Really?
Yeah, not at all.
So basically, you
So-
just need to show them that you have enough cash and that you're Thai.
Yes. So
Holy.
cash, all those documents, and they will take your So there are two ways to getting your license. Like you can have the gun shop do the process it for you, which costs quite a bit extra, or you can do it yourself, which takes a lot of time and involves you going to the Ministry of Interior to for an interview, and it's just a hassle. So what I've done for all my guns is just have the gun shop do the process it for me. So the gun shop will take your they'll also take your fingerprints and have you fill out forms, or they will actually fill out the form for you, and you just have to sign on the dotted line. And they'll send all those documents to the ministry, and for background checks. And once it checks out, usually the waiting period is anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, and then you're good to go.
Okay, so you can't just walk into a shop and walk out with a gun.
Oh no. There is a mandatory check.
Okay, a background check, criminal check, fingerprints on
Correct.
record, and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah,
That's a little
correct.
bit that's a little bit more settling than just being able to walk in and walk out with a gun.
No. Yeah.
I'm reminded of a Simpsons episode where Homer walks in to buy a gun, and he goes, "Okay, that'll be 4 to 6 weeks wait," and he goes, "What? I'm angry now."
Yeah, no.
As a foreigner, then, if I wanted to buy a gun, I walk out of the gun store with my gun, I get licensed, I get fingerprinted and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then what? Where do I go? Say I want to fire off a few rounds
Okay.
for target practice.
Okay, so if you want to shoot a few rounds for target practice, there are several shooting ranges in Bangkok, and a lot of the shooting ranges, they are within like an army base or police compound. Because, for example, like the one shooting range that I usually go to is a Navy base or Navy recreation center. Yeah, so it's usually run by some part of the armed forces.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are privately owned ranges as well. I think it's within central Bangkok, like downtown Bangkok. There aren't that many, but you will find them, a little bit on the outskirts or in the suburbs.
I remember years ago I was in Pattaya,
Mm.
and there's a gun range down there, and I
Yep.
decided to go and try it out. And first of all, I suck at shooting. I can't remember what type of gun it was, but it was a pistol.
Mhm.
And second of all, I was a little bit scared at how good it felt to shoot.
Right,
And
right.
it makes you feel powerful and badass. And that scared me a little bit. And I can see how this might play into some of the statistics I was reading. But the stats on Thailand, gun ownership and gun violence, they're really hard to nail down. I Googled a couple of things, and there's one result from Google that says, from 2015, that says gun murder rate in Thailand on par with the United States. And then right underneath that, it says Thailand gun death rate twice as high as the US.
Oh wow.
And then it goes from there, and they're all over the place. So I don't know what to believe, but do you think that the background checks that they do now are enough? Do you think they should be more stringent, or do you think that crime is done by illegally obtained guns?
For me personally, I mean, okay, of course there is like those cases where gun violence is committed using legal guns, but the illegal guns out there, there's just a lot. Like for example, Uthai Thani is known for Thai homemade guns.
Homemade guns.
Homemade guns. Now these guns are like single barrel break action shotguns. You should Google it, like Thai made shotguns. And I don't think I've never shot one, I've never handled one, but I can say that I don't want to handle one, and I don't want to shoot one because I like my hands. Yeah, I like my hands. So yeah.
It's funny though, because you think of I mean, Thailand is considered, it's a developing country, and you look at a country like America, which is supposedly very advanced, and especially in terms of the rights that people have for guns. And the big thing there now is home-produced gun parts and even home-produced bullets. But I mean, it seems like Thailand was already doing it a long time ago.
Right.
Having these, all I need to see is a shotgun made out of bamboo, like one of those bonfire rockets or something.
Yeah.
So gun ownership is a little bit of a controversial topic, and that's why we're not using your real name right now, just in case. Are there any really vociferous or very loud or well-connected anti-gun groups in Thailand?
No. No, not that I know of. Like those within the gun community, like myself, several people that I know in my community, like they own both legal guns and illegal guns. And these illegal guns are usually, I'm pretty amazed at what they own. Like they have like AK-47s, they have like a M4, assault rifle, and
wow.
And I actually had the chance to buy an AK-47 myself, but I was like tempting, but I wouldn't know where to hide it in my house because yeah. And secondly, even though if I have it in my house, I wouldn't be able to shoot it anywhere because it's illegal.
Right. You'd have to go way out to like some deserted border area.
Exactly.
Or something
Even so, between you taking that AK-47 into your car and driving to the border town, between your house and that border town, there could be police checkpoints and whatnot, and the risk isn't worth it. So I was like, okay, forget it.
Just offhand, when you go to a shooting range, say you bring your Glock to a shooting range, how much does it cost to shoot off a couple of dozen rounds?
Okay, so one box of 9mm lead round nose, it's about 650 baht.
So what, 22 bucks?
Yeah, about 22 baht.
Okay, I have no idea if that's expensive or cheap compared to other countries, but I was just curious.
So about 22 bucks, and for a box being 50 rounds, box of ball ammo is about like 1,000 baht, so you're looking at 30 bucks or so.
Yeah,
like a box of 50.
I wonder if guns weren't so expensive, the number of illegal firearms would drop. Because I mean, that's definitely a barrier for entry, right? If something's way too expensive, you're going to find alternate ways to get your hand on it, no matter what it is, whether it's music or food or guns or whatever. I'm just sort of talking with myself here. I don't know if there's any
fine.
answers. It's interesting because I get why people like it, and I respect that you are pro gun and want to have this hobby. Myself, I couldn't really care less if they were completely gone from this face of the earth. I don't think they're necessary. But I mentioned this quickly in the introduction with Evo. Now that I have a kid and I have a condo, I have thought about owning a gun for family protection. So I don't know. Like I said, it's a slightly controversial topic. It can be anyway. And there's good arguments on both sides.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, and also to that point, like my girlfriend, she's I don't want to say very anti-gun, but she's anti-gun. Like, I've taken her to the shooting range. She's a pretty okay shot, but then every visit to the range after that first visit to the range, I asked her, "Hey, do you want to take a few shots? Practice?" She's like, "No, you go ahead." I'm like, "What, really?" Like, yeah. I've had enough.
I understand where she's coming from, and it scares me that ability to kill is not something to be taken lightly. And I think there are people out there who do take it lightly, and that's when bad things happen. So, I mean, safety is the number one thing you have to keep in mind, but there's a whole lot of other things too. There's self-control.
Yes.
There's keeping a lid on where they're stored and how they're stored and who has access to them and all these things. So
also expanding that point, like whenever bring a friend over and like friend, hey, I want to check out your guns. Like, I always give them like the gun safety basics. Like, okay, look, I can show you my guns. If you interested in owning one, finger always off the trigger, never point the gun always point the gun in a safe direction, always handle the gun as if it were loaded, that sort of thing. And also at the range, when I take people to the range to shoot, I cover the safety basics first, and always tell them, like, look, as a responsible gun owner, you are responsible for every bullet that leaves that barrel. A gun is essentially a tool to destroy. There's no way around it. It is a tool to destroy.
Whether it's a target or a deer.
Yeah, exactly.
Or an
exactly.
enemy,
So you have to respect it. Respect the gun, respect this tool, and know what it's capable of. And you are responsible for everything, every bullet that leaves that leaves that barrel, that leaves that gun.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad to hear you take it seriously, and I'm glad to hear you preach that, you evangelize that to others who might be taking up the hobby. So
there was something that I was going to mention. So the courses that I take, I've been fortunate enough to have a very good instructor, and he also mentions and preaches the part about responsibility. Like, whereas my friend, he's like, oh, if I'm ever in a life-threatening situation, I'm going to shoot the guy in center mass 2 times. I'm like, okay, yeah, but Thai law, you can't do that.
Even if someone breaks into your house?
You can shoot him, but only to incapacitate him, not to kill him.
Oh, I see. So if you shot a guy in the leg, they'd be like, well, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you emptied a clip into his chest, they'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Because
that's not allowed.
Yeah, it's all about intent. So what is your intention?
It's funny these rules exist because this entire confrontation would take place in 1 second.
Exactly. I'm glad that I've never been in a confrontation. I mean, I don't look forward to it, but like a gun owner, if there's a break-in and the gun owner shoots the burglar or the whoever's in your house, that gun owner will be charged with murder until there is reason that, okay, yes, it is self-defense.
It's just a perfect example of how serious these things are, especially when they're misused, or the weight of responsibility that comes with gun ownership.
Exactly.
In Thailand. All right, man. Well, thanks a lot. That was interesting. I knew nothing before. I know a little bit more now. I'm not sure I'm ever going to own a gun, but hey, at least I know where to start.
Yeah,
I need some paperwork ready. Get my fingerprints done.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you want to go to the range, let me know.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on the show, Kun A. It was very enlightening, and stay safe.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me.
So there we have it, guns in Thailand, and I still doubt I'm getting one anytime real soon.
Yeah, it's not something that I'm aiming for.
See, I knew I'd get you in the punny way of doing things. And
Although I got to say though, now that I have a kid, a family, I own a condo, it has crossed my mind, but I'm not there yet.
It's time for that segment we like to call Love, Loathe, or Leave, where one of us,
baby.
me this week, I get to actually, no, the other way around. Greg this week gets to spring something on me, and we will find out if it's something that I love about living in Thailand, I loathe about living in Thailand, or hate so much that it's going to cause me to leave. What do you got for me?
Well, we've talked recently on another show. One of the topics that we talked about was when you go into a store and you're looking for something and the clerk walks up to you and you say, no, thanks, just looking. And they just continue to stand there 14 inches away staring at you.
Yes.
But I want to take this a step further and say that happens. Okay, that's one thing. And you're like, okay, I got to get away from this clerk. So you turn around and to walk away and there's another clerk. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll go around the corner and there's another one. And I turn around, go back, and there's another one. And before you know it, you're looking around, and the clerk to customer ratio is like 15-1. I mean, I was in Home Pro today, and I think they are the most egregious offenders in this category. But they wear bright orange vests, and there was just bright orange vests everywhere.
Wow.
And that's something that I notice all the time, just the immense amount of staff members in a lot of retail outlets. And they outnumber the customers by a lot sometimes. It really makes me wonder what's going on. Like, do they really need this many people? Are they that desperate to help you? Is it something wrong with the customers? Is there not enough people here? Is it not busy enough? I just, and they're all, can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? It's just one guy doing that is annoying. 15 of them, it just bothers me.
Yeah, I'm with you. The fact that, as you say, we are outnumbered when we go into a store is a little odd, and we probably should do a full episode on the underlying, or one of the underlying issues here, and that is that Thailand reports around a 1% unemployment rate, which is unnaturally low. It sounds like it's a great number, but it's unnaturally low, I think. And part of the reason for that is, again, when you go into any retail establishment, they are way overstaffed. Now, I don't know the economics behind that. I know what the government wants to do, show 1% unemployment. It makes the country sound like a great, fantastic place to live. But the reality is we get, I guess one of the problems is we get flooded by all these retail staff, which is an annoyance. I mean, if I had to pick between love, loathe, leave, certainly don't love it. I don't think I'm ready to leave over it. So I'm leaning on the loathe because I do dread sometimes going shopping because geez, oh Pete, I'm going to have to deal with the throng of orange vested workers again. And it's not even a highway crew. It's the retail crew. And I don't need that much help. Thank you very much. So I'll put it in the loathe category.
Yeah, it's something that just, I don't get. Someone told me one time that retail salaries in Thailand are historically quite low. So I mean, it's no big thing for some boss to say, we need to have the tiles on the end of the aisles polished once an hour, so hire someone at X thousand baht a month or something like that to do it. And then suddenly, like you said, you've got all these little tiny jobs and they're hiring tons of people to cover them. Looks good on the books, but I'm not sure it's entirely necessary.
Yeah, maybe they should actually polish those tiles as opposed to standing around waiting for me to ask a question, which I'm not going to ask.
Can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you?
You're killing me, Smalls.
Well, everyone, thanks for listening to the Bangkok Podcast this week. If you have anything you'd like to share or a topic you'd like to hear us talk about on a future show, head over to bangkokpodcast.com and leave a comment. Or you can reach out directly to me on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg.
Or you can send us a message either on Facebook or on Twitter at Bangkok Podcast. I'm Evo Terra, and Greg and I will be back next week with more stories of our lives lived in the City of Angels right here on the Bangkok Podcast. Cheers! You had to hit record though. Okay, good. All right, that's good.
You always remind me, don't forget to hit record.
Don't forget to hit record,
Which
man.
leads me to believe that you've done this more than once where you started talking and then like, ooh.
Nope. Not me,
Never?
man. Must have been somebody else. I've never had an error in recording.
Sure. Yeah.
In all the 14 years I've been doing this, I've never once done anything that stupid. Right.